find, here he is. Okay, thank you, everybody. And happy to be joined by Senator Schatz. Now, to Trump's explanation about his war in Iran grows more confusing and more contradictory every hour. Yesterday, hey folks, can we have a little quiet? Trump's explanation about his war, as I say, grows more confusing, more contradictory every hour almost. Yesterday, Trump casually claimed, I think the war is very complete, pretty much. But this morning, Hegseth stood before the cameras and announced that today will be the most intense day of strikes yet, involving, quote, the most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes, unquote. Which is it? Is the war ending soon, or are we on the brink of the worst fighting yet? Donald Trump's a liar. He claims that Iranian Tomahawk missiles were responsible for the bombing of an all-girls school that unfortunately killed 170 people, many of them children. Iran doesn't have Tomahawk missiles. The claim is beyond asinine. It's just an outright lie. The president can't just talk off the top of his head on something as formidable as this. The President of the United States is spreading blatant lies about a war he started. This is war. American troops are in harm's way. Billions are being spent overseas when there are such desperate needs here at home to lower costs. Yet the administration still cannot explain a clear strategy or an endgame. That's why today I joined with my colleagues Senator Reid and Shaheen and called on the Senate to halt the Trump administration officials. What we got there? Now from voices it goes to music. Anything to thwart my wonderful remarks. Anyway, Anyway, I joined today with Senators Reid and Shaheen and called on the Senate to hold Trump administration officials, Rubio, Hegseth, and the rest, to come and answer for their failures and explain to the American people what the hell is going on. That's what people are asking in drugstores and bowling alleys and office buildings. What is going on? No one can understand it from what the Trump administration and Trump himself are saying. Trump doesn't care about being honest and direct with the American people. He doesn't care about the soldiers he's putting in harm's way. He doesn't care about the billions we're spending while Americans struggle to make ends meet. He can't articulate a plan or a vision because he has neither. No plan, no vision, and we're at war. The American people are tired of the chaos, they're tired of the lies. On to another Trump administration failure, the Department of Homeland Security. We're in the fourth week of a DHS shutdown because Republicans refuse to enact common sense reforms to ICE and CBP to protect the rights of the American public. What we're asking for is very, very simple. The same thing police officers and sheriffs do throughout America. We have three clear objectives to rein in ICE. One, stop these roving patrols. Two, enforcement and accountability. Three, no more secret police. Cameras on, masks off. They're common sense reforms. The overwhelming majority of Americans back them. They know you don't bust into someone's house without a warrant. They know that police should not have masks. But the Republicans have refused, Trump has refused to engage in a serious way in negotiations to these core areas. Instead, you see them trying to blame Democrats for long TSA screening lines at the airports. Well, yes, last week, Thursday, we gave them a chance to fund TSA and other DHS agencies last week. And last week, Senate Republicans, led by Senator Britt, blocked Senator Murray's attempt to pass the bill through UC, through unanimous consent. It funded the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, CISA. It funded TSA. It funded FEMA and other important DSA functions. Republicans refused to fund TSA, FEMA, and CISA. And why? to protect ICE, not to protect Americans. It's wrong. Republicans need to get serious. And now, Senator Schatz.
One of the things that surprised me on Monday was the number of Senate Republicans that were not aware that we went to the floor and said, why don't we narrow the scope of our disagreement all the way down to the one agency that we're fighting about? What is the reason for holding TSA hostage? What is the reason for defunding the Coast Guard? What is the reason for defunding FEMA or CISA? And so we went to the floor and said, we are in a deep disagreement, but an ongoing negotiation about ICE and CBP. And so let's narrow it to just that and fund the rest of the government. And it was blocked by Senate Republicans. And so if they would like to open any of these agencies, they should walk onto the floor and offer unanimous consent to open the Coast Guard, to open TSA, to fund FEMA, to fund CISA, and I guarantee you there will not be a Democratic objector. It is the Republicans that are blocking the reopening of these critical agencies. It is true that we are still far apart on the question of ICE. It is also true that there is no reason at all to hold TSA or the Coast Guard or FEMA hostage while our negotiations continue.
Leader Schumer.
The lady in the yellow dress.
You've called for public hearings on the Iran war. Are there any negotiations with chairs of the committees to get public hearings on any of these issues? And what are you prepared to give in order to get hearings?
Our chairs have asked for these hearings, but it's not just our chairs. It's not just Shaheen and Reid and Schumer. The American people want it. You're going to war and you can't even tell the American people what you're doing. You can't face questions, serious questions, that make you, that force you to think this through, which they obviously aren't doing. So of course we should have it. Of course, yes.
Senator told us that they have offered to sit down with Democrats and the White House, and that Democrats said no.
Okay, that's a lot of bull. Ask Patty Murray. It's a lot of bull. And second, we are constantly in communication with the White House. It's not that there's a lack of means of communication. We're sending things back and forth. It's a substantive problem. The White House will not budge on things that Americans want, like warrants, like demasking, plain and simple. So to put up this subterfuge, oh, it's the means of communication, bull. Ask Patty what happened.
Leader Schumer.
Yes.
Thanks. Liam Cosgrove with Zero Hedge. 31 of your Democrat colleagues signed a letter regarding the Philadelphia American citizen who was murdered in the West Bank by Israelis. This is the 9th since 2022 murdered there. Why did you not sign that letter?
I will have to, I haven't seen that letter.
Would you have
Yes.
This is a month ago.
Leader Schumer, what is your concern about a terrorism strike if DHS is not funded and the risks that poses to the United States?
Look, there's plenty of money to fund CISA on its own, but very simply, if the Republicans are concerned about risk, pass, just by unanimous consent, pass what we put on the floor, which would have funded CISA. Easy, plain and simple. So don't ask us, ask them why they blocked it.
Leader Schumer.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Leader Schumer. You recently responded to President Trump's Truth Social post regarding the Save America Act, saying that if he's going to not sign any bills until it's passed, the Senate's going to be in a total gridlock. Can you just explain, isn't this sort of a stab in the back to the American people who 85% of voters support voter ID?
Yes, but their bill isn't voter ID, number one. It is about voter registration. It allows ICE to kick tens of millions of people off the rolls, and they don't tell them until Election Day, and you show up and you say, you're not registered anymore, you're not registered here, you're not on the rolls. And they say, I didn't know that. This is a bill that destroys the country, and it is not about showing ID when you show up to vote. It's about the voter registration rolls, destroying them, purging them, not letting people know, and taking the rights in a algorithm put together by ICE put together by Doge and Musk. It's an outrage. And that's why so many people don't want to pass it.
So if you're
Yes,
concerned
yes,
about
yes, yes.
Can you comment on the implications for women, that bill? Because
Yes,
they
if a
change
woman
their
changes her name and you want to go first, to go register again, once you're kicked off the rolls and you have no way of knowing, only 5% of people register in person, you need a passport or your original birth certificate. If you have a new name, you're a woman, you change your name, no good. It's an outrageous bill, an outrageous bill. And we're going to fight it tooth and nail. Last one.
Leader Schumer, I want to ask you, you have made clear that replacing Nome with Mullen is just a change at the top. Are Democrats going to be united against voting for Mullen, a colleague?
Look,
In that
the
nomination?
rot in ICE is deep. It's not one person. It goes deep within it. And what we need is not changing the personnel, but changing the law. That's what Democrats are for.
So are you guys going to be united against him?